So yes, this is about how the M1 chip works. So there are a total of 5 parts of this. There's the CPU, fabric, GPU, DRAM, neural engine, and cache. Usually, in a traditional CPU or laptop, there are 4 parts. The CPU and cache are put together in one chip. The GPU, or the most likely the GPU, or the dedicated GPU, is most likely put into another part, and the DRAM, also known as the RAM, is put into a totally different part. And the only different thing about this is that there's a neural engine. What this does, it's basically an AI enhancer. What it does, it's kind of like a boss. Let's say you take a company, and there's no boss in the company. If you have a boss, or like an instructor, who's instructing the employees to do something faster, then it's kind of like a supervisor, right? Imagine working in an ice cream place, but there's no supervisors, there's only workers. Obviously, you won't be doing it at your full capacity because you'll rather be talking to the people around you and doing it at the same time. But if there's a supervisor constantly looking at you, then you would do it super fast, right? Since you don't want to get fired. That's basically what the neural engine does, except it's an AI enhancer. Okay. DRAM, it's basically a normal RAM. It's nothing really out of the ordinary. But the difference between this and M1 is the fact that all these components are put into a small little chip, made possible by Apple's 5nm, 3nm nodes. This is the same, it uses ARM. It basically uses a different architecture. So that means you cannot run your traditional Mac games or Windows games by using Boot Camp on this CPU. You can only play a certain amount of games that only work on this computer, such as Roblox. You can only play some games like Roblox and not even Minecraft, because this is Intel's CPU, since most games are designed to run on x86 CPU. So most games you can play are basically all the games that you can play on your iPhone. So yeah, the good thing about this is that you can play all the Android and iPhone games on your M1 laptop or device. The good thing about this is that it uses the same CPU as the Tesla. It's really similar. This is basically, except this is a bit different. In the Tesla's one, there's a CPU and a GPU, which is different. There's a big neural engine in this Tesla, but imagine that's combined. This will be the DRAM, and this will be all the components into that small little package. That's kind of how it looks. As you can see, this is the power plug. This is the neural engine combined, and this is the CPU in the Tesla's one. But in the M1 process, there's a CPU and a GPU. Because the M1 Macbook Pro or the MacBook Air has been able to cram all these components into a small die, it's been made possible to not even have a fan, not even a thermal pad to cool the CPU. That's right, this M1 MacBook Air doesn't even need a fan to cool, since it runs so cold with such a low TDP, this is basically the same TDP as a Chromebook. That's right, your slouchy, lazy Chromebook with only 4 gigabytes of RAM takes the same amount of power consumption as this beast. As a matter of fact, this M1 MacBook Pro was so fast that it even outclasses desktop-based CPUs. As a matter of fact, this M1 MacBook Pro in the MacBook Pro version is better than the i9 11900K, which is a $589 CPU. And the laptop this comes in only comes in at around $400 to $500 used. And add that with 16 gigabytes of RAM, that's going to cost a lot of money. As a matter of fact, this GPU has 2 teraflops. That means that it's faster than your Xbox One S, PS4 Pro, or even your PS4. So yes, this is the M1 MacBook Pro.